encourage you to grab a warming cup of tea with me or whatever your favorite beverage might be at the moment. And we're gonna have a little sit down chat. I'm finally addressing the question of conception and questions relating in that topic. So we are gonna cover some of that today. I've got my notes with me, hoping it will keep me on track so I don't get caught off on rabbit trails and start rambling. So with that, let's get settled and let's start talking about it. Obviously, this is not advice for you. I am just answering a question of how long did it take you to conceive? Getting into my story, just to give you a little background, if you aren't familiar with my story, my name is Charlotte Faith, and I am currently 26 weeks pregnant. I had 2 miscarriages, and I think that's important to share because even though I was really blessed with being able to conceive very quickly, I still had to go through that, and it was really hard. Now, I don't want to talk about my miscarriages in this video because I'm really just going to be talking about fertility preparation for my body and what I did personally, but I did want to share that with you if you were unfamiliar. Now, after my baby boy is here and healthy and in my arms, I will most likely do a video addressing my miscarriages and just the experience that I had, because unfortunately it's just not a topic a lot of women discuss openly, and for good reason. It's a very hard discussion to have. It's a really emotional situation for a lot of people, and myself included, but I know that for any story that I watched online or read about, it was so comforting for me when I was going through that. We're going to focus on things that I did to prepare for conception, which really did benefit me because I was able to conceive very quickly. And again, this is a personal situation. The first pregnancy, I actually wasn't tracking my ovulation or anything. We were just kind of leaving it up to chance and just kind of going for it. And if it happened, it happened. So I can't really say maybe how long we tried because we weren't actively tracking anything. We were just having a good time. Now, with the next pregnancy, when we were trying after our unfortunate first miscarriage, which was so traumatic, we got pregnant the second month, and then when that got through that, we tried again and got pregnant the first time. So with that, I had just continued to learn about nourishing my body, and I just didn't give up on what I knew to be true for myself being able to have a healthy pregnancy. So with that, I really back up my journey of starting my fertility preparation because I actually lost my period for 7 years. I could not get it back after being on birth control for 6 months. I'm not here to tell you it's bad to take birth control if that is something you feel like you need to do and you feel comfortable doing. For me, I really felt like it was a bad decision, and I was definitely pushed into it. So I have a video talking about getting my menstrual cycle back, and you know, as I've gotten older and wiser, I really attest to getting a regular menstrual cycle back due to just allowing myself to eat enough carbohydrates. Because of having type 1 diabetes, a lot of my endocrinologists throughout the years always pushed me to eat low carb, and that is not a solution, especially for women in your fertility years. So there's that. But we're not going to talk about periods either. But one of the things I did early on, before I even knew I was ready to be a mom, I did start to try and regulate my cycle. So part of that was getting carbohydrates back into my diet and getting a regular cycle going. So, hang on, I gotta take the dog out. One of the things that I really started to address was just getting a higher percentage of body fat. Something I've seen common of people relating it to like the Greek goddess statue of just having like a fertility body of someone who looks very well nourished. Not to say anything bad about girls who are on the leaner side and still have healthy pregnancies. That's amazing for them, but I just felt like it wasn't what was going to be best for myself. Now, if you see my other videos, you'll know that I definitely followed more of a lower fat plant-based diet to help my diabetes. And from research that I've done, I knew that having a lot of healthy fats in your diet was helpful for fertility. So I did start to put on some weight, and I was happy to see that. I felt nourished. I started just filling out in my figure a little bit and kind of getting that more like womanly shape. With that, dietary changes, I was still including lots of healthy carbohydrates, healthy fats, and some slowly entering in more protein. With that, I felt guided to start bringing back in more eggs into my diet, more grass-fed butter into my diet, and also wild-caught fish. And that's kind of how I baby stepped back into animal products. And then alongside of the dietary changes, I have always been someone who has a very low alcohol consumption, so that isn't something I had to cut out of my diet per se. I just kind of stuck to what I've always done. At the same time, I did go on a family vacation a few weeks before I got pregnant with our son, and I actually was having one glass of red wine almost every night at dinner with my family, and I was eating raw cheese that was local to the area, and I was just really relaxed. And I think that has such an impact on our bodies when we are in a relaxed state. So going on a family vacation and just enjoying being around family, enjoying food, and enjoying time with my husband really was helpful. And again, that was before we had gotten pregnant with this baby right here. So I just kind of want to throw that out there because I know some people attest to cutting out alcohol completely. It's not something I do on a regular basis. However, I think a glass of wine is probably okay, but do your research on what works for you, of course. But I'm just sharing that because I think being relaxed is a really big part of being able to conceive quickly and just not being so stressed about life and what you look like and all of the things that come with that. So with all of these protein choices and healthy fat choices, I was still consuming lots of fruit, sweet potatoes, still included a lot of leafy greens into my day, whether it was in a smoothie or it was in a green juice or even having a big salad. I would just add chickpeas and fish onto it or something like that. You know, it was just making things a bit more abundant of healthy calories. I started making my sourdough bread, and I know we've been talking about diet for a minute now, but I just kind of share this because there's so many times where I see people say, cut this out, cut this out, cut this out. And for me, I started bringing foods back in. With each time I had gotten a positive pregnancy test, I just allowed myself to explore more in my diet. And again, this isn't processed foods I'm talking about. This is whole, nourishing foods. These are not things that come out of a package that have been processed. There are things like sweet potatoes, fresh fruit, whole grains, homemade sourdough bread, raw local dairy. Those are things that, whether you can tolerate them or not, or choose to eat them or not, they are in their whole form and they have vitamins and minerals to provide our body with nutrients. So there is my stance on that. And again, if you want me to talk more about dietary changes in a future video, then we'll do that later on. We talked about dietary changes, low alcohol intake, being calm, low stress. All right, to talk a little bit about some supplements that I included. I started taking a prenatal recommended by my functional medicine doctor, and I did that back when I started my first pregnancy, and I pretty much just kept up with it. So I've been on a prenatal for about a year. Now, there are various opinions on prenatals. I definitely would recommend getting a high quality prenatal, probably not one that you're going to find at Walmart. I think supplements are helpful, and with that, prenatal can be a good option if you have a good quality one. Another thing that I included almost on the daily was maca root powder. You can get it in capsules. I personally like the flavor of it, and I would just add it into my smoothie in the morning. You could put it in your coffee or a hot chocolate. You could even bake it into baked goods. Granted, you're not gonna probably get the same amount, and I'm not honestly sure what it does when you cook it, if that changes the nutrient value of it. But for me, putting it in my smoothie was a really easy way to get it in, and that definitely helps to support your fertility. So another supplement that is a little bit similar to that is Vitex. If you're struggling to regulate your cycles, talk to your doctor or your holistic practitioner about Vitex. It's an herb called chasteberry, I think is what it's called, chasteberry, and it is one that has been known to help regulate your menstrual cycle and even in some cases like help to bring it back. So if you are struggling with being able to track your cycle and ovulation, that might be something that could be helpful. Another supplement to help with stress can be ashwagandha. I've talked about this for years. It's one of my favorite herbs to include for your adrenals and keeping your cortisol levels in a healthy range. So if you're someone who is just struggling with your stress management, possibly look into ashwagandha and see if that can help you. Again, I always purchased it in a loose powder form and added it to my drinks. I have purchased it in a tincture form as well and taken it that way through a glass of water or something. But there are various forms you can get it. Again, I always think the biggest thing is coming down to quality. So make sure you're just getting high quality supplements, and that's that. Last thing I want to touch on for this fertility topic before I end this video is just that I think that there are a lot of different ways to approach having a healthy fertility journey and being able to support our bodies and live nourishing lives. I don't think that eating animal products is always the answer, and I don't think that veganism is always the answer. Maybe it is for one person, and maybe it's the opposite for the other. And if we as individuals can take the time to just block out the noise, listen to both sides of the argument, and be able to experiment a little bit with ourselves and go into it in more of a relaxed mindset, I think that we can have greater success. And that is just the way that I approached it. I didn't want to put myself into a box of having to stick to a certain dietary choices or eliminate certain things. I knew that if you just look around you at social media for that matter, you can see people who eat raw dairy, eat meat, and maybe, you know, they're not eating as much fruit as the next person, and they have 7 children and are obviously being able to conceive at a very healthy rate. And then there are some women who are living completely vegan lives and they have multiple children and they were able to conceive and they were able to have healthy pregnancies. So it's not one size fits all, but that's why I just wanted to share what had worked for me personally was bringing back a lot more flexibility into my diet and into my life. And only since I've been pregnant, I have just continued to experiment in bringing back more animal products into my diet. Of course, I still eat a very plant-rich, colorful plate. And still, even though I have made some pretty drastic dietary changes, and that's only continued since I've been pregnant, I feel completely nourished and balanced, and who knows, maybe I will go back to being primarily plant-based, but for right now, including in more animal products and just allowing myself a little bit more flexibility in what I'm choosing to nourish myself on a daily basis has felt really good. And I've just allowed myself, like I said in the beginning, to welcome that healthy weight gain, that more curve, that fertility body, as I like to call it. And I know that this can be such a sensitive topic. So that's where I again assure you that this is just my personal experience. And I feel really grateful that we were able to conceive quickly. Um, but I do attest it to things that I've done in my life over the past few years and taking the time to learn about my cycle, learn about proper nourishment, and learn that sometimes it's gonna be different than you think. I, of course, would have never wanted or expected to have the miscarriages that I did, but I accepted them, I learned from them, and I just continued to push forward in nourishing myself. And with that, I was able to again and again conceive quickly. And I'm just so grateful that I was able to have such a healthy pregnancy. If you would like to stay tuned, I'm sure in my future videos where I do more vlog style, I'll be talking about food, of course, my approach to just holistic living. With that, thank you for listening today. If you do have any questions, please feel free to leave them down in the comments. And do remember that everybody has their own unique journey. Anything that I've said wasn't to judge anybody else's approach to their fertility journey. It's just something that had worked for me. With this pregnancy, I've continued to make changes that we will probably talk about in the future. But I just wanted to focus a little bit in on the past of what I did to get ready for baby. So with that, I hope you're having a really great day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.